Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Aaron Dykes, your host on this INFOWARS Nightly News for Wednesday, May 9th, 2012.
Tonight, U.S. Army admits re-education camp manual not intended for public release. Public Affairs Director falsely claims document does not apply within the United States, but we've got proof that it does. Then, Congressional Democrats introduce amendment to outlaw self-defense. Meanwhile, the UK bans self-defense expert from entering the country. And the CIA catches itself in a new underwear bomb plot, another manufactured hoax from beginning to end. And WorldNet Daily's Chelsea Schilling joins us via video Skype to discuss Facebook's selective censorship and their inability to stop rampant pedophilia groups. All that and more on the INFOWARS Nightly News.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are also going to cover a brief history of false flag terrorism tonight, so stay with us. But first in the news, the ongoing story concerning the internment and resettlement document leaked from the Army has not only been confirmed, but a spokesperson has come forward to say it was indeed not intended for public release. Paul Joseph Watson, of course, has the story. Public Affairs Director falsely claims the document does not apply within the U.S. We've covered that at length over the past several days about how various quotes show it also applies within the continental United States. There's use of Social Security numbers and a reference to agencies including FEMA and Homeland Security that operate legally only within the U.S. And so we have the Fort Leonard Wood Public Affairs Director, Tiffany Wood, who's provided the first official response to this internment and resettlement document. A shocking U.S. Army document that outlines the implementation of re-education camps, admitting the manual was not intended for public release and claiming its provisions only apply outside the United States, a completely disproved position as exposed by the language. Now, this also is interesting because Fort Leonard Wood is the location of FEMA camps we exposed some 2 or 3 months ago there in Missouri. Let's flash back to that story. Sources exposed FEMA training camp in Missouri. An anonymous source sent us photos to Infowars.com of a FEMA training camp at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And we've got the sign there that says Training Area, Camp Charlie, Mock Internment Facility, and also you see there pictures of the camps. And so they are certainly training to intern people. And here we have the document proving that it not only has to do with various types of foreign enemies, but may well have to do with so-called domestic enemies as well. And our great researchers at the PrisonPlanet.tv forum have further dug into this terrible and ominous document, showing how it's not only to be used within the continental United States for politically motivated civilian internees, but that they will also be targeting militias or other armed groups with opinions contrary to that of the government. You can see that for yourself. It's a long posting. It's on the Prison Planet forum, or you could just pull up the actual document itself and read about it. But just sick information continues to pile up that there is a de facto war against the American people. Political dissidents will be silenced first through the chilling effect of various policies and possibly silenced through actually being detained, that is, inside these facilities. You can see where they're training. We've exposed all the other documents for contracting labor, how KBR built the camps starting back in 2006, how they've resurrected old mothballed camps, including some of the camps used to intern Japanese American citizens during World War II. What a sad legacy. What a sad fact. They're using continuity of government excuses to resurrect these things and help them go live. Just sick. But now we want to turn to the latest case of false flag terror, where the CIA has caught itself in another false flag bombing, the new underwear bombing episode. Let's go now to the video Alex did yesterday to expose this new case.
Thank you for joining us. Tonight we have more confirmation on top of the mountain of evidence that most terror worldwide in the last 30 years or so has been provocateured or staged. Now, you know the Gulf of Tonkin was staged to get us into Vietnam in '64. That's been declassified. And Operation Ajax, the U.S. and British governments used radical Muslim extremists to overthrow the government of Iran while claiming they were actually fighting those groups. This is done over and over again. You know, al-Qaeda and the Taliban was created by the CIA, working with the Pakistanis, the Israelis, and Brits. All of this is on record, but we learn it decades later. Back with the 7/7 bombings 6-7 years ago, it came out on Fox News. Look this up. They had FBI agents that went public and reported, I'm about to get to the new news, but I'll give you some background here, and reported on the fact that a SWAT, the leader of the 7/7 bombing, was a MI6 asset. And there's our original article with a link to the Fox News video, terror expert, and it goes over the entire report. There's Fox News with FBI agent Loftus breaking it down. It was also in the London Independent. Okay, continuing with this information, ladies and gentlemen. Paul Watson has the news breaking at PrisonPlanet.com and INFOWARS.com. This just happened yesterday, and we told you, underwear bomber 2, but instead of just setting up a patsy, they just say, we don't know who he is or where he is, but we found some underwear with a firecracker, so give all your rights up and Obama's going to save you. Well, now, al-Qaeda bomber was a CIA informant, PrisonPlanet.com. But wait, here's the Huffington Post and the Associated Press are reporting al-Qaeda bomb plot, would-be bomber, was CIA informant. And it just goes on from there. We're told naked body scanners, TSA on the streets. But what happened 2 Christmases ago? The Christmas Day bomber, Muttalib, we had the eyewitnesses on first. Kurt Haskell and his wife saw the U.S. government getting him on the plane without a passport. A month and a half later, questioned in Congress, the Undersecretary of State, Mr. Kennedy, admitted an unnamed U.S. intelligence agency told us to get him a visa and get him on that aircraft without a passport. Boom, that was staged. 7/7. Boom, commanded and run by an MI6 operative. On record. The guys that were part of it thought they were part of a drill. They were anti-Muslim extremists, and they were blown up on the trains and those buses, or that bus. And the government was running a drill of the exact targets being attacked at the same time. That's Peter Powers, the head of Visor Consultancy, admitting that on ITN and BBC. Look it up. And it gets worse. 5 years ago, members of SAS assigned to MI6 in Iraq dressed up like Wahhabis killing Shiites to get sectarian warfare going on between the two groups. I could keep giving you examples. These aren't theories. These are facts. So now they just say, hey, we had a threat of a deadly firecracker, give all your rights up, but instead of having some drugged up patsy like Muttalib, you know, drugged, rolling him onto the plane, who actually thinks he's part of al-Qaeda, they just make up this new guy and say, oh my gosh, it's so sophisticated, it's so deadly, it's so evil. Of course, they were reporting yesterday, U.S. thinks underwear bomber built bomb with al-Qaeda in Yemen. Oh my gosh, U.S. sends airport security guide to other countries. Yeah, buy the naked body scanners to keep you safe, the new domestic police state arms race. All of this, absolute pure bull. We never see modern cases of where these hyped up terror attacks weren't provocateur or purely, absolutely staged. We know that the so-called hijackers of 9/11 were trained at U.S. military bases. That was even in AP Newsweek. But we're supposed to ignore all that information. They were just people taking part in a drill, just like the 7/7 patsy. So here it is. AP, al-Qaeda bomb plot, would-be bomber was CIA informant. Associated Press. Oh, but they say it was a double agent. Oh, that's how they spin it. Just like the troops have to grow the opium to fight al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. And they got to rape children in Abu Ghraib in front of their parents to fight al-Qaeda. Well, I mean, I'd be for al-Qaeda above raping children. And, of course, al-Qaeda's CIA, so that would be raping children anyway, so I wouldn't join that. I mean, this is staged. It's a global corporate empire who needs to act like it's under attack so it can take your liberties and give itself trillions of dollars in tax money a year, just in the U.S. alone, 3 or 4 trillion worldwide, in the name of keeping us safe. You know, the Olympics with missiles around it for al-Qaeda's Air Force. This is a pipe dream. The globalists think you're so dumb. All their propaganda is designed for people not paying attention. Remember, al-Qaeda flies its flag over Libya and is exterminating blacks by the tens of thousands right now. Totally racist. Remember, al-Qaeda is being used to attack Syria. No fan of Assad, but compared to al-Qaeda, he's a great guy. They're blowing up police stations and being called freedom fighters. It's in the news that al-Qaeda is the good guy now, and we're supposed to segue to the domestic extremist, that is, people that want liberty. Unbelievable information unfolding in front of us. But wait, a final piece of news in this spectrum of information we're breaking down here that's only the tip of the iceberg. You see, the regular teleprompter news is some bimbo reading off a teleprompter what the globalists wrote in the central CBS broadcast center for all the major networks by private PR firms and the CIA and foreign governments and others. Here, it's full spectrum analysis. And we're even taking mainstream news where they have to admit this stuff and laying it out to connect the dots for you. Here is the London Telegraph today. U.S. secretly releasing Taliban prisoners from Bagram Air Base. Same thing at Camp X-Ray in Gitmo. Same thing at Abu Ghraib in Iraq, not just in Afghanistan. This is what they do. They get people in these re-education camps to find out who can be operatives to go out and pose as synthetic artificial terror. If you want to invade countries, you've got to create the synthetic threat. If you want to take liberties, you've got to create the synthetic threat to take the projection of the bad guy so you can play the part of the good guy, when in truth, the New World Order is controlling both sides of it. You understand that? This is what they're doing. So there it is. America has secretly been releasing high-level Taliban prisoners from a top-security military prison as part of negotiations with insurgents. Folks, the only insurgents they're fighting is opium farmers that don't want to get a lower price. It's a bunch of tribalists in Afghanistan who've always been killing each other. That's why Alexander the Great couldn't beat them. The Romans, the Persians, the Brits, no one can beat them because they don't have a culture or society that's centralized. They're cavemen. It's beyond medieval. No one can conquer them because the guy over the next hill hates his cousin down the road. This is beyond Appalachian hillbillies to the power of infinity. So the globalists are there to get the $500 billion a year in opium. That's all that's happening. Okay, as we told you yesterday, this is staged, had all the earmarks. When they came out and said, oh, can't have bin Laden, he's in the ocean. Oh, who's this guy? We don't know. We found some underwear with a firecracker in them. Now, America, fall to your knees. We have an M80. And the Republic just goes, take my rights, grope my wife and daughters. I'm so afraid of a guy with a turban and with an M80 in his underwear. And now he's CIA. And because that leaks out, and now there's congressional investigation calls, what do they say? He was a double agent. Even after they said that about a SWAT in the 7/7 bombings, it came out he could fly in and out of the country and was being protected. They're not double agents. They're agents of the mega banks playing the West off against Islam. Every time people in Islamicist countries try to build societies and civilizations, which they're very capable of, the globalists send in a bunch of jihadis to blow the hell out of the capital. Okay? Okay? That's been the plan. It's been the plan since the end of World War II. The Brits used the